What's going on, Sideboard Podcast family? This is your host, Caleb Williamson. Unfortunately, we don't have Tim with us today. He is out for the evening. Just got some stuff to take care of. But we still are going to go over set 12 today. I know you guys have been waiting anxiously for this episode, and so I'm going to bring it to you the best I can. And we're just going to talk about set 12 and why it's so amazing. Let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing I want to cover is some of the most popular archetypes to come out, and one of my favorite reasons why set 12 is awesome. I'm just going to name a bunch of leaders and like their general archetype, and so just bear with me here. I'll go a little bit deeper in a second, but we have a whole bunch of new stuff in set 12. So we got launch midrange, Toa ultimate deck midrange, reboot Mecha Frieza turbo, Bergamo reboot control, Janemba aggro, which can be played in several different leaders. We'll touch on that in a second. Slug group hug, which is like a whole new thing now. Turles, which can be like aggro or hand control based on how you build it. We have Skillless Whis, which not a fan of Skillless. And then we have Shroom and Salsa Gravekeepers. So that's 9 new and I think pretty good archetypes. Now I haven't read like extensively. I haven't extensively like read every single card, played every single deck, you know. I have a general idea of everything, so give me a break, but you know. If you have played something that I mistakenly claim is one thing and it's not, put it down in the comments. Let's have a discussion. Okay, so let's just get into a couple of these decks and my thoughts on them. So the first one I want to get into, which I talked about earlier, was Janemba aggro. So Janemba is and was a mill deck, but when that was released back in whatever set it was, there was also a crit leader. And so you could play the deck in two different ways. You could play it as a control mill stall type thing, which was the most popular and the better version, but you could also play it as a crit aggro deck, which is what they kind of rebooted in this set 12. And I think it's pretty good. There's a lot of like draw power early crit aggro, and just for blue, like it's not really expected. It's just one of those things that they don't normally do. And so it's quite refreshing to have that coming into the format. And some of the leaders you can play it with that aren't Janemba are going to be like, you can use the hit leader. So you can have that 20k skillless in addition to all your Janemba stuff, which is really useful. And also you can do the Soul Striker reboot leader. Soul Striker reboot, I would say, is one of the best, if not the best blue leader currently, just because you get that extra energy, got that draw power, you know, overall super valuable. So I would definitely check out both of those leaders for the Janemba archetype. If you're planning on playing it, don't just be confined to the Janemba leader. I don't really know exactly what all the cards do. I haven't like specifically play tested that deck because I don't really play blue. That's more Tim's thing. But I do know that it is good and you guys should definitely check it out. But maybe try different leaders for the deck. Okay, so moving on to another color, we have green. So originally when set 12 came out, I wanted to play Turles. And one of the reasons why is because in the Panini card game, Turles was an aggro deck. You played him in the red mastery, and he was just like, go ham, balls to the wall, smash your face in. And that's kind of what I got out of this leader. You know, you have the Tree of Might, comes down turn 1, and then you have all your other dudes that come out and do a whole bunch of aggro stuff. But that list in testing was not the greatest, and so we pivoted towards a more hand control list. You run Ribriannes, Cells, Kamehamehas, Roshis if you like them, Dormant Potentials obviously because it's green, best card in green for the most part. And then, yeah, so you take out a lot of the Turles engine, and you play those cards. You can also run the budget list that Joey Palladino from Crossroll TCG had up. That's kind of what I've been testing, and it's actually pretty good. It's pretty good. I think it'll struggle with other decks that are like equally as fast or don't care about hand control as much. Like blue, they can just ditch Sane Instincts because they run them, which is it's kind of funny if you guys think about it. Like that card used to be over $100, and it was played in every deck, and now almost the only deck that runs it is blue decks. I wonder why that is. And they're only like $40 each. So think about that for a second. Anyways, so yeah, Turles is good. It struggles against decks that have a large hand size or are faster than it. So I think it's going to be a solid tier 1.5 deck. But we'll see what happens. You know, you never know. Just speaking of on tiers really quick. Let me take a drink of water. Marcus told me one time. Marcus is the owner of Cross World Team Shenron's Lair, which we were Shenron's Lair. He was the owner. We have rebranded as Cross World TCG, and so he's like the captain, owner, whatever you want to call it. Marcus told me one time, because I was preparing for an event, that if there's one deck you are preparing for or over preparing for, you should really critically analyze that, because at any given event, the most representation a deck has had that wasn't like a degenerate deck has been 20% of the field. So that's like 20 out of 100 decks are this one deck that you're worried about. And so the reason I bring that up is because when people when people describe tier lists, I think that it's not like the most, don't let it define how you play, because it's all going to be based on what people are playing. And so, excuse me, jeez, I'm burping tonight. So if, for example, in let's say Vegex format, so like last format, everyone was worried about Vegex, but you go to an event and like nobody plays Vegex, right? Or you don't even play a Vegex. So all that prep you did to fight Vegex was mostly useless. You know, you're prepared, sure, that's good, but you still have to be able to beat the other decks. So anyways, my main reference to that is that a deck that I had in my mind that was faster than Turles aggro was Red Broly. It seems to be like the meta deck right now. And so if I just wanted to encourage you guys to don't just focus on Red Broly. Its time will come where it gets, kicked off the pedestal and flicked down, and one day it won't be top dog. But for now, just have fun. So Turles aggro, hand control, it's pretty good. Test it out. I like the character, so he's cool. Okay, so the other green deck I want to talk about, Slug Group Hug. Now I know Eggman had a deck profile and has been playing this deck quite a lot. I haven't seen his list. I haven't played the deck, but I play quite a lot of Commander. And in Commander, which is EDH Magic format, you have a lot of different archetypes because the card pool is large. It's pretty similar, honestly, to Dragon Ball Super, because even though it's Highlander 100 card deck, so you can only have one of each card, which is, different than any other constructed format. It's similar in the sense that you get to use the whole card pool, and there's no standard rotation. So Slug the reason why they call it Group Hug is because in Magic there's a archetype that its whole purpose is to help your opponent and harm them in a way that you're helping them at something fundamental, harming them in a way within your archetype. So what that means is the Slug cards, right? Slug on the back says if your opponent's leader has like 7 or more cards in hand, he gains, he's a 20k. If they have less than that, he's a 15k. So it's like your leader's big, which is great if they have a large hand. But they could easily just dump their hand, right? And your leader shrinks, but then they're dumping their hand. But your leader can also have them draw cards. So you both draw, which is cool. So that deck's cool. I think it'll excel against like go wide decks because green just seems to do that pretty well. And so it's going to have all the same tools as any other green deck like Go Tanks, except it's just going to be a different archetype. Green's just kind of that way where they have like their base 20 cards or so. You know, Ribrianne's, Roshi's, Dormant Potentials, Zamasus, or not Zamasu, sorry. Zarbon, Lockers. You know, so that's 4 cards. So that's like at least 15 in your deck that are basically all going to be the same throughout every green deck. And so it's just kind of pick your archetype and insert it into the deck. But anyways, I haven't tested that deck at all. I just thought I'd bring it up and kind of my thoughts on what it can do, what it is supposed to do based on just reading the engine. The next deck I wanted to talk about was Shroom and Salsa. The reason I call them Gravekeepers, which I'll get into that in a second, but I just want to preface this with Tim is the person out of the 2 of us that is on that deck, so he'll have more insight for next week's episode, or he might even do a profile between now and then. Just stay tuned. But I read the leader, and I don't think you need to read the rest of the cards to kind of know what the deck does once you read the leader, because it'll run all the best black cards, obviously, like every color is doing right now, which is kind of interesting in my mind. I like it. There's like format color staples, which is cool. But anyways, so the leader basically says when you combo with a black card, you can warp one of your opponent's cards from their drop. And so I called this Gravekeepers because it's a reference to a Yu-Gi-Oh deck called the Gravekeepers, and their whole shtick was that they stopped your opponent from using their discard pile by their field spell or their battle cards, their monsters, and all that stuff. And so Shroom basically does that with in this game, they warp your opponent's drop. And so I think that's going to be a really hard counter to Vegex because, like, yeah, they can mill, but they might not have the Sparking 20 when they're on that backside. So you might want to watch out for that deck. I think it's going to be really good. They're also getting like a skillless package, which is cool because they keep getting more skillless black cards. So yeah, that deck's pretty cool. Tim will have a profile up on that at some point, as well as some more information on the deck. Let's get into the reboot leaders for this set after I drink a thing of water really quick. Okay, so we have 2 reboot leaders that I wrote down on my list for today. We have Mecha Frieza and we have Reboot Bergamo. So out of the 2, I was super excited for Bergamo. I read the leader and was like, yes, Bergamo Lock is coming back, which is cool. But I think Mecha is a little bit better, and we'll go into why after we talk about like just the Mecha format for real quick. Just do a recap of what it used to be. So Mecha used to be a deck, which it's going to be a deck again, but it used to be a deck that would play extra cards for free to turbo down its life, awaken, and then start playing things for free with its leader skill by playing extra cards that summoned people. And then also ran Shugesh, so you had like an extremely aggressive free summoning thing, and then Shugesh for defense and or offense, because you could also play things for free off of a Shugesh. So basically the whole deck is like, take all your life, play a whole bunch of stuff for free, and then kill your opponent. That's why I call it turbo. Or like, it's not really Storm, because like Storm is doing the same action over and over and over and over, and this is not that. You're like just turboing out dudes and then hoping that you win. And yeah, that's what Mecha is. So Reboot Mecha is a little different because they added some control aspect. I think on the backside it says like if you activate an extra card, you get to like tap one of their dudes or whatever, which is cool. You can tap blockers or energy, or I forget exactly what it says, but you can tap something, which is super good. One of the reasons why this Zamasu super combo is so good. But one of the things that we learned about Mecha in this new format is that there's a lot more extra cards that you can use, which when you have something that just reduces something for free or for taking a life, which is basically free, you have to watch out for what kind of extra cards you have that are printed. So the two that come to mind are Tyrannical Blow, which says it's 1 yellow extra card. It says counterplay, negate the unison being played's skills, and then choose one of your opponent's battle cards and negate its skills for the turn. So the second part is conditional upon the first part fulfilling. What that means is that if you have to do it on a unison being played to get the second part, you can't just counterplay a battle card, not choose a unison, and then negate something for the turn, which is balanced because Cold Bloodlust is limited to 1, so they still get to play that, and so they basically can have like 5, which is really, really good. And it's one of the only cards that like negate unison effects, which is super good because, like, think about this, right? If your opponent's going first and you have a Tyrannical Blow in your hand, you can, and they're playing green, right? They play a Demigra unison, and normally they would +1 and have Frieza open. Frieza, charismatic villain, to counterplay your thing, right? But you Tyrannical Blow, take a life, negate its skills. It's at 1 marker. Now it becomes your turn. You swing into it with your leader, and they either have to take a life. Okay, well, Demigra is not the best example because they can just take life. But in a unison that comes down for 2 that doesn't have that Demigra text on it, you can just kill it because it can't plus. And so the card's really good. And it also lets you, like, if they miss sequence and they play a battle card and then play a unison right after before swinging, you can negate both effects. And so it's like a really big shut-off card if used correctly. So you have to play around that, learn how to play around that. I recommend it to the highest level. So anyways, that's like the front side of Mecha because it only reduces extra cards by 1 down to 0 on the front. And then on the back, it reduces by 2. So you get to like open up a whole different board of like different extra cards you can play. The one they're primarily playing is what's it called? I'm blanking on the name. It's called Universe 9 Assemble. What that says is draw 2 cards. It's 2 yellow. Draw 2 cards, and then like if your opponent has 2 or more tapped cards, you get to play a U9 2 or less from your deck for free. U9, sorry. So basically you play the Basil, 1-drop Basil. He says draw a card and then activate main. If they have tapped cards, you can gain 15k dual attack, sorry, not double. So he attacks twice at 19k power. So the reason why this is so good is because, so like say you have 5-card hand, right? You play the extra card. You take a life. So now you're still at 5. The extra card allows you to draw 2 cards. Then you play a Basil from your deck who draws you a card. So now you're at +3. And then you get 2 swings with Basil. So let's say each one they have to combo. Let's say they're Awakened, right? Because you're Awakened, so they're probably Awakened. So they have to combo 5k each time. So that's 1, 2. So that's a +5 if you just, like, if they don't have a good answer for that. And so in Mecha, they're relying on these super high plus plays that they can just turbo out early game. And they're hoping that you don't have like a good answer for it. And it's likely that you don't, because this game right now is all about playing your unison on 2 or 1 and then plussing it and having your counterplay ready. But if they can negate your unison skills so you don't plus, and then kill it on the following turn with a Basil or something like that. It's like super value swing. So that's kind of what that deck does. They're pretty much just a turbo deck. I would say just when you're playing against mecha, like keep your life kind of high and mull for like negates and stuff. Play defense for a while until you can stabilize, because they're going to turbo their life down. And so you need to just wait and stabilize. Have a turn where you like stabilize yourself. So, talking about the Bergamo deck, they're getting a couple of new cards, but mainly the leader was what we needed to be rebooted. Essentially, he just makes the whole engine flow better now. And so, I think this deck's going to be... I don't think it's going to be high tier. It's always been kind of casual. None of the cards have like deflect or barrier or anything like that. Even though they have like really good effects, like the field spell, bloodlusts everything like 4 or less. For battle cards, so you know, basically all of your early plays just have no effects, and that's if they have the full lock. So it's super like control heavy and like detrimental if they don't have the full lock. But I think like it'll be cool, and if you need to prepare for it, if you don't have like Secret Identity Mass Sand to clear their board, you might want to consider playing that, just because it's a good counter to the Bergamo lock. Excuse me again, sorry. Just looking at my notes here really quick. So, just went over a couple of decks. I saved the one that I personally have been playing for last, because I'm probably going to talk about it the most. But before we move forward, I want to just say a little message from our sponsor. Sorry, I'm just really burping tonight. Okay, so our sponsor is Madtown Gaming. If you guys have any sealed product needs, they sell terrariums, sleeves, binders, basically all the card games that exist. Check them out, madtowntcg.com. Pretty sure I said Madtown the first time, but check them out. They have Facebook. You can message them, or you can go to their website and order from there for like sealed product and stuff. But yeah, they sponsor us, so go check them out. Tell them we sent you, and yeah, that would be wonderful. Moving forward, we do have a TCG affiliate link, so if you guys are looking to buy singles for this upcoming set or any set from the past, or even any card game, it works. It totally works. You just click the link. What I do is I bookmark the page on my Google tab, so I can just click it, and then wherever you go from there, as long as you don't reload the page, it'll send us a little kickback. So we appreciate everything that you guys do for us, but that just helps us a little in the money aspect. And so if you guys feel like supporting us that way, we would greatly appreciate it. And then lastly, the easiest way that we can get a kickback is through our merch store. We obviously enjoy the kickback that we get from this, but we also want to bring you guys some really nice clothing. That's why I bought one. I wanted to see the quality, and it's very nice. We have sweatshirts, t-shirts, which I have, but I'm not going to obviously change right now. Baseball tees, all that sort of stuff. And then we also got these new mugs. Aren't they nice? For your hot cocoa or your coffee or your tea. This one's really nice. So go check it out. It's linked in the description below. Everything will be down there. So yeah, thanks guys. Okay, so drink some coffee here. Okay, I'm back. So I'm just going to bring up my list for the deck I want to talk about the most for set 12, and I'm super excited for. Probably a lot of you guys are also excited for it. It is the ultimate deck Towa. So we're going to call it Toa Ultimate Midrange. Okay? I'm dubbing the name right now. If you don't call it that, then you are a noob, and you'll forever be shunned. No, I'm just kidding. Call it whatever you want, but that's what I'm going to call it. Anyways, pulling up the deck. First off, how cool is it that we get a 4-color or even 5-color deck? I think that's one of the coolest things about this deck. You have like so many colors and you don't care about it. Although AOD was like that, so it's not the first deck. But I think this one's cooler because I wasn't a fan of AOD. Never had the secret rare. Anyways, so this deck is something cool that Bandai has never done. They have a product you can buy called the Ultimate Deck. It is a ready-to-go tournament deck right out of the box. You just buy it for 20 bucks and you're ready to go. I would recommend buying 2 because it's not like totally complete. You need 4 of some of the cards, but it is playable out of the box, which is very nice. And it comes with a lot of good reprints. And the whole deck is foil. How cool is that? The whole thing is foil. All the promos and everything. So let's look at the list that we have here. It's Joey Palladino's list. He is a very good list builder. That's why we use his lists. And so one of the things I like about this deck is it's very mid-range. So what is a mid-range deck, right? A mid-range deck is a deck that can pivot into control and or aggro and runs multiple ways to do so in its own deck, and its primary goal is value. Now, what does that mean in this deck? It means that we're running 3 different chains. They're like 2-piece chains each. So first off, we have our support cards, which are like the 1-drop Toa Rewriting History, searches out your ball and you can play dudes for cheaper later in the game. The Dark Dragon Ball searches out basically your whole deck. Super good. Then we have the Unison, which goes along with the support package because it can't attack, so sad day. The engines we're running are the Lord Slug engine, the 4 and the 6, the 2-drop Yellow Lord Slug, and the 9-drop, which is like your defensive package. The 4 and the 6 is like your board wipe package removal, and like they just pressure overall. And then we also have the Dark Broly package, that's like your aggro package. And so based on like what you're playing against and what you need, if you need a pressure or you need to defend or you need to wipe their board, you can choose which one you want to do. And that's really what makes this deck so lovable for me, is that I have all the tools. You know, like I said in some of our previous casts, one of the things I didn't like about Sin Shenron is that it couldn't really like pivot into aggro without sideboarding. This deck can. It can run aggro, it can run defense, it can run board wipe, it runs Senzu, best card in the game, right? Somebody tag Trey Faircloth. It's the best card in the game. And it's like 5-color deck. I don't know why, but that's super cool. Anyways, so the front side of the leader self-awakens, which is useful. It's a take a life, draw a card when you attack. It also reduces all of your Xeno dudes basically by 1 and makes them no specified, which is why we can play 5 colors. And then you awaken at 4, draw a card, untap 1. Pretty standard for leaders these days. The backside is more or less the same, except instead of taking a life, you gain 5,000 power, and then once per turn, when one of your Xeno dudes dies by an opponent's skill, you get to draw a card, which just like leans heavier into the mid-range value type thing, especially because like the slug, the yellow slug and the yellow-green slug are blockers, and so the opponent's gonna either run into the blocker or remove the blocker. And if they remove the blocker, not only do each of those do some kind of effect, but you're gonna get another draw. So it's like super value. And same with the Brolys, if they remove them, not by battle, you're going to draw more cards. And so overall, I just really like this deck because it's super flexible, and I feel like it's going to be a really, really good mid-range deck. From testing, it's had a tough time against like Red Broly, but like I said, remember guys, Red Broly will have its time where it gets knocked off the totem pole. It's coming. I'm sure it'll happen. You just have to be patient, and the deck's not unbeatable. Like, it's beatable. There's just a lot of RNG involved. So also don't, plan around just playing that deck, because it's not going to happen ever, because it's super expensive. But anyways, it's like aggro decks that can go faster than it. I give it trouble because it needs to set up, kind of like needs turn 3 is like its power turn to get going. And so if you're like turn 1, turn 2 trying to kill me, then it's going to be a little rough. But showcasing a couple of the cards that it uses, we have the Dark Broly Unbridled Destruction. He's like our main value card. I really like this card because it doesn't rely on a strike, like double strike, triple strike, crit, or anything like that, which sometimes can be a trap. If you get them low life early, you swing triple and you combo all in, like that could be super risky if they have an answer. And so instead of doing that, he strikes their life in a different way. He says essentially, when you play this card, if your opponent's life is at 3 or more, they have to send 1 card from hand, board, and drop to warp. Battle card from drop. If they do two of those things or less, so basically like if they just do 0, they crit a life. So, and then he's a 30k beater with unique and deflect, so pretty good overall. I really like that card because he also comes out for really cheap, and you can play him in the Dark Broly deck also. You can just play the Red Broly and the red 2-drop and the red 7-drop in Dark Broly. Because essentially what you do is you swing with the 2-drop, then you pay the 1, I think it is. Let me check. Yeah, you pay the 1, and then he puts a 6 or a 7 on top in active mode, so you can play the Dark Broly Demon Realm Ravager. I have the list up over here. Play him on top, warp 1 from their hand and their drop, and then swing, and then you can EX evolve the 7-drop for 2, because the 2-drop can either go into the 7-drop, or the 7-drop can just EX evolve onto the 2 or the 6. And when he does, he switches to active. So you get 1, 2, 3 swings for 3 energy. So that's pretty good, pretty efficient. And you're warping, either critting a life, warping a card from hand and drop, or you're warping 2 from hand, 1 from board, 2 from drop, which is pretty good. So that's like the main beater of the deck. And then the SCR, you could choose. I didn't think of Celzino, but you can actually search him with Dark Dragon Balls. So if you have the numbers to make it correctly, which is kind of difficult, then you can try that. Or otherwise, you can run the Boo secret, just a counter in green for 3. I don't have the card yet, so I'm just running no secret, which is also fine. Makes the deck more budget, and you get to like lean into the archetype more, as in a sense of like, don't take risky plays because you don't own the expensive card that allows you to do that. But anyways, this is my favorite deck for set 12 currently. I really like its flexibility. You guys should try it out. Try and pick up 2 of the decks I would recommend. 1, completionist, to have 4 of every card, and 2, you need 4 of some of the cards in the deck. So there you go. I think they come with a booster pack too, so that's like 2 boosters. You could potentially pull something cool. But yeah, so yeah, moving forward, this is going to be most of what we talked about today. I just want to review some things. So we have 9 new good archetypes that I personally know that are going to be good. There's probably more in the set 12 format, but there's just 9 that I like skimmed. So check it out. If you guys have a deck that you've been playing, down below, comment and let me know how it's been going. Or if you're excited for something, just let us know. We always love to see the comments in the description. So yeah, interact. Let's go. Other than that, that's going to be it for today's cast, guys. Like I said before, let us know how much product you're getting. I want to know. I want to talk to you guys in the comments. Yeah, so this is the Sideboard Podcast. Checking out. See you later, guys.